So I've got a few minutes here, and during this time, I'm going to talk about some of what we see convergence and some very interesting technologies. So 5G, cloud-based video processing, 360-degree video, and the combination of some of these technologies coming together is creating a new freedom in the art of live event and live production coverage. Now, quick one first. If you don't recognize the MediaKind brand name, we rebranded from being the product and media solutions part of Ericsson about 10 months ago during a separation process, and we completed that separation from Ericsson at the beginning of February this year. So formerly we were Ericsson Media Solutions. The bits of technology that Ericsson kept were things like LTE broadcast, managed services, which are rebranded as Redbee, and CDN technology, which is rebranded as Edge Gravity. All of the pieces that have come over to MediaKind are hardware and software video encoding, so Tamberg and InVivio brands of the past, cloud DVR technology from Fabrics, TV platforms like Microsoft Media Room and Media First, the cloud-based TV platform. So these are all the sorts of things that have evolved and moved over to being MediaKind. Now, in terms of the live event and live coverage pieces, as a company, we introduced our first digital satellite news gathering codec 23 years ago, and we've been involved in live production and live first videos all the way through that time. So whether it's from space, from the seafloor, whether it's the first 4K live events, the Olympics coverage, helping NASCAR go into remote production through their service provider, PSSI. We've been involved in some of these live event pieces all the way through time. And so what we've seen in that 20 plus years of experience is that live events are really limited by a number of different areas. You've got the staging and the prep time parts. So particularly for major sports events, going out and deciding on camera locations, that geography and physical location is having to restrict camera locations. And all of that prep time takes time and it takes money in advance. And then when you're on site, you've got all of this cost of people and time and infrastructure rigging out for these major live events. And as it's premium live event type content, then we always have that demand for quality because of the premium nature of these live type sport events. And the fact that that video that's been captured from site, typically multi-camera, is going to go back to a production system. It's going to be edited. You're going to do graphics overlay, all these other different pieces to that video before it goes out to the consumer. And that generally leads to immobility. You end up rigging high-quality cameras in fixed locations and having to cable those locations in. And that gives a lack of flexibility in how you can cover live events. Now, news and other forms of content have bypassed some of these restrictions. Now they've gone to microwave, they've gone to 4G bonded modems to overcome sort of prep time, setup. But you're trading off really that quality versus the mobility piece. But there are some great solutions with 4G and 4G bonding, and you can see some of them in the exhibition area at the back here. But what we see going forward is that some of these new technologies are going to break some of these barriers apart. So in particular, the combination of 5G and cloud-based processing is going to break some of these creation barriers. First, we're going to see wider coverage, new camera locations, the flexibility that these technologies will give in providing the ability to cover live and premium sports events differently. And progressively over time, the combination of these different technologies, 5G, cloud processing, 360-degree video, are going to create new experiences. So virtual front seat row experiences for people to view, better and higher quality views from in-car footage, and even full player and first correspondent type views as well. And I'll share with you some of the recent events that we've done over the past year that are driving towards this direction of sort of untethered live event coverage. So one of those first ones was with Fox Sports in June last year for the US Open. So this was a technology proof of concept with Fox, with AT&T for the 5G network, for Ericsson for all of the 5G core networking, and ourselves for the video and media processing. And this was all about expanding the camera locations to bring audiences closer to the action. So what we had here is we had 2 golf carts rigged out with encoding and 5G modem technology, and those golf carts were able to follow the action around the golf course at the US Open, and therefore provide a new experience and wider coverage of the US Open in comparison to taking the fixed camera, the cabled fixed camera locations that have typically been used at an event like that in the past. We were using 5G connectivity to link those mobile cameras back to the production truck. This was with AT&T. It was in the 28 gigahertz band, and with that 5G, we were able to get over 650 megabits per second bidirectional data connections. So very high data capacity wireless within that event, and this was done with a 5G core in a box. So everything that was required from the core network of 5G was put into a sort of rack mount portable box, and that's what was taken out on site as well to become the 5G receive infrastructure that was needed so that you could make almost a portable 5G network for doing this type of event coverage. So we had 2 4K ultra-high definition HDR cameras that were going around covering that event, and they were transmitting back to the production truck at 80 megabits per second. Now, in terms of overall latencies, the camera to production truck latency was about 12 milliseconds. So that was the sort of latency that we were getting through 5G. And that's quite interesting when you start to think about that sort of latency for remote production, remote camera control, and all these sort of things as well. And in terms of the total encode to decode latency from camera back to the production truck, that was just under 700 milliseconds. Now, we were running HEVC encoding, and we were not particularly running in a low latency or low delay mode for the encoding, so you could certainly cut down that sort of latency from camera back to production truck. But what this really did with 5G is untether those camera locations and made those camera locations possible with high quality to go around and cover those live sport events. And then 6 months later, towards the end of last year, we were working with some other different type of technologies. So back in November and December last year with Deutsche Telekom in Germany, we were doing live 360 multi-camera sports capture and streaming. And so this is all about enabling that immersive sports experience. So this was multi-camera angle, all those camera angles streamed to consumers, and taking all of and using cloud-based processing to take away all of that infrastructure and cost from being processed on site and moving more of that processing back into the cloud. So here we had live 360 cameras, upping the resolution to 6K rather than the more normal 4K resolution used for 360. And from the event venue, from the stadium, up into the public cloud, we were running one event, we ran at 200 megabits per second per camera. The second event, we ran at 60 megabits per camera up into the cloud. And then in Google Cloud, in this case, we did all of the conversion, tile-based processing, and then publication for the 2 360-degree video channels that were streamed to consumers. And using tile-based technology, the bit rate required to get 360 to the consumer devices in the home was on average around 12 megabits per second to the consumer. 5-second segments were used, so we had about a 30-second end-to-end latency from camera through to the consumer device. But this again showed the flexibility of pushing high compute video processing up into the public cloud, making it much more cost-effective and flexible on an event-by-event basis to do that for 360 type coverage. And that really leads us to the sort of final direction that we see going, is that all of these technologies in combination, the 5G, the cloud-based processing for 360 and 360-degree video, enable some new and different first-person immersive experiences, new ways to cover content, to cover high premium sports content, and give consumers new primary experiences or grow some fan loyalty with that second screen experience while people are watching your normal big screen TV coverage. So in terms of the camera locations, you know, the 5G part untethers those camera locations so they can go anywhere, even to the point of being on people. And again, you see the small form factor 4K, 8K, and 360-degree cameras. 5G modem packs are on their way. I'm expecting to see and do some trials with some first 5G portable modem packs around 3 to 4 months from now. But the chipsets are just becoming available. They're starting to get integrated into 5G modem packs for on-person, for on-back of camera. And that's really going to sort of make the access to 5G technology for untethered cameras quite accessible, reducing, therefore, setup, people, costs, and all the other things that news coverage has benefited from with microwave and with 4G bonding technology. The same thing can be happening with high-quality production for live sport events as well. And then the cloud-based processing really means that we can start to move more remote production into the cloud with low latency, giving us that ability to do all of that camera production and camera management remotely. The throughput that we're able to get on these types of networks gives us the ability to maintain high-quality capture. And using cloud-based infrastructure means that we've got an event-by-event-based processing, and as soon as that sports event is over, all of that infrastructure can get turned down, and you're not bearing the cost of all of this heavy-grade infrastructure at all points in time. And that's generally the direction that we see these combinations of technologies enabling a new experience for live sports coverage going forward into the future. If you've got any questions, I can take a few now. There are a few MediaKind people around at this event as well, and we can share more details on any of these experiences with you. Thank you.
All right, any questions? Anybody? All right. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.